46 years ago today, the SS Edmund Fitzgerald sank in Lake Superior. All 29 crew members aboard died. It was the largest ship to ever sink in the Great Lakes. Resting place is now 530 feet below the lake's surface.
A team of researchers believed their new quantum drone would finally close the book on the SS Edmund Fitzgerald tragedy.
Part of the mystery of the Edmund Fitzgerald was the fact that none of its crew was ever found.
29 sailors disappeared when the ship broke apart November 10th, 1975. And the whereabouts of those men defied searchers for 19 years.
This machine could detect things no standard camera or sonar ever could. As it descended through the frigid abyss of Lake Superior, it was supposed to give us answers. Instead, it gave us more questions. Just as the wreck came into view, the drone transmitted a single chilling data packet showing a massive, unexplained energy field. Then, it went dead. It wasn't a glitch. Something in the darkness of the lake switched it off, and the experts are scrambling to figure out what it was. 500 feet down, then nothing. It's funny when you think about it. We send probes to the deepest parts of the ocean and the farthest reaches of space, but some of the biggest mysteries are right here in our own backyard. For almost 50 years, the SS Edmund Fitzgerald has been one of those mysteries, a ghost resting in the eternal cold at the bottom of Lake Superior. Dozens of dives have been made and countless theories have been spun, but none have definitively answered the biggest question. How could a 729-foot giant vanish without a single distress call? In 2024, a privately funded research group, the Great Lakes Maritime Institute, decided to change that. They weren't just going back with a better camera, they were going in with a weapon of discovery that was straight out of science fiction. The Odyssey 7, a quantum underwater drone. This wasn't your average ROV. The Odyssey 7 was a $10 million marvel, a sleek torpedo-shaped drone designed for one purpose: to perceive the imperceptible. Its primary sensors weren't sonar or high-definition cameras, though it had those too. Its crown jewel was a quantum magnetometer, a device so sensitive it could detect the faintest disturbances in the Earth's magnetic field. Anomalies that could be caused by massive metallic objects, or as some of its designers theorized, by other, stranger things. The idea was to create a perfect three-dimensional magnetic ghost of the Fitzgerald, mapping not just the steel, but the stresses, fractures, and energy patterns locked within the wreck. This, they believed, would finally reveal if the ship snapped in half on the surface or was torn apart by some other force. On a calm morning in late September, the research vessel Pathfinder held its position over the known coordinates of the wreck. The mood in the control room was electric. This was the culmination of years of planning. The Odyssey 7, gleaming under the floodlights, was gently lowered into the dark, choppy water. Its descent began. 530 feet isn't a huge distance by oceanic standards, but in Lake Superior, it's a journey into another world. The water temperature plummets to a bone-chilling 39 degrees Fahrenheit, and sunlight vanishes completely after just a few hundred feet. On the monitors, the view from the drone's cameras shifted from murky green to absolute black, pierced only by the drone's powerful LED beams. Down it went, through layers of sediment and suspended particles, a lone star descending into an inky cosmos. At 400 feet, the first sonar returns began to paint a picture on the screen. A shape, massive and unnatural, began to resolve from the noise. It was the bow section of the Fitzgerald sitting eerily upright, its nose buried in the mud like a fallen titan. For a moment, the crew just stared, captivated by the silent majesty of the wreck. Then, the mission lead gave the order. "Bring the quantum magnetometer online. Let's see what she's got for us." As the drone closed the final 100 feet, the data began streaming in. The magnetic field around the wreck was, as expected, intense. The drone's software began translating the data into a shimmering, color-coded model on the main screen. Red for high intensity, blue for low. It was working perfectly. The team was about to see the Fitzgerald in a way no human ever had. The drone was just 50 feet from the bow when the lead sensor technician's voice cut through the calm. "Whoa, whoa, what is that?" On his screen, a new reading had appeared. A secondary magnetic field, separate from the wreck itself, was pulsing. It was small but incredibly powerful, located somewhere off the starboard bow. It wasn't natural. It wasn't part of the ship. "It's fluctuating. That's not possible," the technician stammered. The room went silent. All eyes were glued to the numbers. The strange field was intensifying at an exponential rate. Before anyone could even suggest a course of action, it happened. A sudden, violent spike in the energy readings, a flash of static across all video feeds, and then nothing. The screens went black. The data stream from the Odyssey 7 ceased. The tether was still connected, but the drone was completely unresponsive. It had gone from a state-of-the-art explorer to a dead piece of metal in less than a second. It didn't just lose power, it was as if something had reached out and snuffed it out instantly. The silence of the Fitzgerald had claimed a new victim, but the drone sent one last impossible data packet before it went dark. A warning from the deep panic and confusion erupted in the Pathfinder's control room. A $10 million piece of equipment doesn't just turn off. Backup systems, fail-safes, redundant power cells. It was designed to survive almost anything. But the Odyssey 7 was completely inert. For hours, the crew tried to re-establish a connection, sending every command and reboot sequence they could think of down the fiber optic tether. The result was always the same: absolute silence. Eventually, they had no choice but to begin the slow, painstaking process of winching the dead drone back to the surface. It was a crushing defeat. The mission that was supposed to provide all the answers had ended with an even bigger, more baffling question. What could possibly shut down a hardened piece of tech like that? Back in the lab, the engineering team pried open the drone's hardened shell, hoping to find a simple explanation. A short circuit, a pressure breach, a catastrophic hardware failure. They found nothing. The drone was, for all intents and purposes, physically perfect. Every wire was intact, every seal was tight, but its core processing unit and all its memory banks were completely wiped, fused by an electromagnetic pulse of unimaginable power. It was like it had been struck by lightning in a place where there is no lightning. The EMP was so localized and so intense that it was unlike anything the engineers had ever seen. It hadn't come from a natural source, it was targeted, precise, and overwhelming. But it wasn't a total loss. Believe it or not, in the nanosecond before the drone was fried, its emergency data buffer managed to transmit one single tiny packet of information to the ship. It was less than a kilobyte of data, a final digital scream from the abyss. When the data analysts finally decrypted it, they couldn't believe what they were seeing. The packet contained the final reading from the quantum magnetometer. It showed the anomalous energy field spiking to a level that the scientists initially dismissed as an error. The field had generated a gravitational distortion. It's a concept that sounds like it's pulled from a movie, but the sensor was designed to detect just that. For an instant, the drone registered a force that was briefly and impossibly bending space-time around it. Whatever was down there wasn't just magnetic. It was something else entirely, a phenomenon that modern science has no explanation for. This new bizarre piece of the puzzle forces a new look at the original tragedy. The sinking of the SS Edmund Fitzgerald on November 10, 1975, remains the most infamous disaster in Great Lakes history. All 29 crew members, led by the veteran Captain Ernest McSorley, were lost. The official Coast Guard report pointed to faulty hatch covers, suggesting that massive waves from the hurricane-force storm washed over the deck, slowly flooding the cargo hold until the ship lost buoyancy and nosedived into the depths. It's a plausible theory, but it never fully explained the complete lack of a distress call. Even with a slow flood, wouldn't they have had some time to radio for help? Captain McSorley's last words to a nearby ship were a calm, "We are holding our own." Minutes later, the Fitzgerald vanished from radar. Other theories have circulated for decades. Some believe the ship was lifted up by two massive rogue waves, known as the Three Sisters, that snapped the keel of the massive vessel. Others speculate it struck an uncharted shoal near Caribou Island, tearing a fatal gash in its hull. But what if all of these theories are missing a key element? What if the same force that shut down the Odyssey 7 was present that night in 1975? A massive electromagnetic and gravitational event could easily wipe out a ship's electrical systems, explaining the lack of a radio call. It could disorient the crew and interfere with navigation. It could have been the final invisible blow in a perfect storm of chaos. The drone wasn't just a piece of technology that failed, it may have been an unwitting witness, 50 years late, to the true nature of the force that claimed the Fitzgerald. This discovery connects the wreck to a pattern of strange events in the region. More than a shipwreck. You gotta wonder what else is lurking in the Great Lakes. The story of the Odyssey 7's demise adds a chilling new chapter to the lore of Lake Superior, a body of water already steeped in mystery and unexplained phenomena. For centuries, sailors and residents of the area have spoken of the lake as a place with its own power, its own rules. The sudden, violent storms are legendary, capable of producing waves over 30 feet high. But the legends go deeper than just bad weather. The area where the Fitzgerald went down is part of a region often called the Great Lakes Triangle, an area with a shockingly high number of unexplained disappearances, ghost ships, and strange sightings. The Fitzgerald is the most famous victim, but she is far from the only one. Over the centuries, an estimated 10,000 ships have met their end in the Great Lakes, with about 6,000 of those wrecks still undiscovered. Many of these were lost in storms, but a handful vanished in ways that defy easy explanation. Take the Bannockburn, a Canadian freighter that disappeared on Lake Superior in 1902. It was last seen by another ship sailing in perfectly calm weather, and then it was just gone. No wreckage, no debris, no survivors. Nothing was ever found. Or consider the French minesweepers, the Inkerman and the Sarasols, which vanished on the same day in 1918 with a combined crew of 78 sailors. They left port and were never seen again. An extensive search found only a single small piece of wreckage. It's not just ships. In 1950, a Northwest Airlines flight carrying 58 people disappeared over Lake Michigan. It vanished from radar, and despite one of the largest search and rescue operations in American history at the time, the main fuselage of the plane has never been located. What connects these incidents is the same eerie silence that defines the Fitzgerald's final moments, a sudden, complete disappearance without a cry for help. It's this pattern that has led many to speculate that there is something more at play here than just storms and human error. For years, people have reported strange lights hovering over the lakes, compasses spinning wildly for no reason, and electronics failing without explanation. These were often dismissed as folklore or sailors' tales, but the fate of the Odyssey 7, a state-of-the-art machine that was literally designed to measure such forces, suddenly lends a terrifying new credibility to these old stories. The idea of a massive magnetic anomaly on the lake bed is not entirely new. The Great Lakes region is geologically unique, part of a massive 1.1 billion year old tectonic feature known as the Mid-Continent Rift System. This ancient rift is rich in heavy metallic deposits like iron and copper. It's why the Fitzgerald was carrying its cargo of taconite iron ore pellets in the first place. It is theoretically possible that a massive undiscovered deposit of magnetic minerals could exist beneath the lake bed, creating exactly the kind of interference that could disrupt compasses and potentially modern electronics. What the Odyssey 7 detected, however, went beyond a simple magnetic field. That final data packet, with its talk of a gravitational distortion, pushes the boundaries of known geology. It suggests a concentration of energy so immense that it's interacting with the fabric of the physical world in ways we don't understand. So what do you think is really down there? A natural wonder or something else? Let us know in the comments below. If this story blew your mind, hit the like button and subscribe for more deep dives into the unknown.